Hello, you can hear me now. Oh, not too tall. I'm short. I'm not Charlie Berens tall. I'm Aliya short. Hello and welcome to the Southwood County Neighbors for Responsible Development and Great Lakes Neighbors United Community Information event on data centers. I'm your MC for tonight. My name is Aliya. If you don't know me, I am the host of a local podcast. We're very new, so you might not know me, but I am the host of a local podcast called Sun Up Wisconsin. We are on Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. You can catch us Mondays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. on all of the different venues such as Roku, Solaris channels and such, and as well as streaming on YouTube and also on our Sun Up Wisconsin Facebook page. We are always looking for new stories, new things happening in the community. So please, if you have things that you want us to know about, please check out the Sun Up Wisconsin Facebook page and get in touch with us because we would love to get your involvement in our podcast and the community. All we want to do is showcase Wisconsin Rapids and what a beautiful city we are. So tonight, the Southwood County Neighbors for Responsible Development has convened a great roster of speakers to share information on the impact of data centers on communities like ours. We are here to learn, share, and ask questions. That's the core of what we're doing here today. There are no allegiances in this room. This is a conversation simply to educate and learn from experts. First, thank you to all of you. Thank you to our community for being here today. You are the heartbeat of Wisconsin Rapids and our surrounding communities. And this information affects not only Wisconsin Rapids, but our communities upriver and downriver. So please, so proud of you all for being here. I also want to welcome and thank representatives from our town council and government who have joined us tonight. Your presence is warmly appreciated. During the question and answer session, there may be questions our speakers can answer based on their expertise, but this is not the forum to expect any definitive answers. Our speakers will be presenting over the course of the next 45 minutes, and we ask that you reserve your questions for the question and answer period. During the question and answer sessions, we ask that you keep your comments, questions, and dialogue civil. We will give one warning if things are not civil, and if further violations happen, we will ask you to politely leave. Also, please gather any information materials provided by the event organizers and feel free to share those with your friends and neighbors. I'd also encourage you to visit the Southwood County Neighbors for Responsible Development Facebook page, join the conversation, continue to share information, continue to learn, continue to ask questions. If you would like to donate to help support this event, there are opportunities to do so here tonight out in the lobby. You can also find some QR codes out on our information table where you can also donate online as well. One last thing, there are other info sessions happening in the community this week. The Midwest Renewable Energy Association are hosting an event tomorrow at 5:30 at Bee's Tap House downtown. RSVPs are requested as space is limited, and you can find out more information on that on their Facebook page. So enough of me, now on to our program. Our first speaker tonight likely needs very little introduction. Charlie Berens is a comedian, New York Times best-selling author, Emmy-winning journalist, and host of the Manitowoc Minute. And as a non-native Wisconsinite, you should all be very proud that I can say Manitowoc. Please give Charlie a warm welcome.
Hello, Wisconsin Rapids. How are we doing tonight? All right. I love it. All right, where are my Packers fans at? Good. Where are my Packers owners at? Yes. Okay, remember, when you buy beers at Lambeau Field, that is a tax write-off. I did see somebody putting their thumb down, though. Are you a Bears fan? Yeah. Okay, where are my Bears fans at? Yeah, that's the response it deserves right there. It's the response. What? Yeah, exit stage left. We are going to have to ask you to leave. We're going to skip the warning on that right now. No, I'm kidding. Just for the Bears fans, are you guys going to Indiana next year? I hope so, too. Because I've made a ton of Indiana Bears suck shirts, and trademarked IBS and everything. It's gonna make a killing, you guys, a killing. All right, this QR code right here, you can scan at any time. We're all in need of volunteers, and if you want to get involved in any way, just scan that. Also, the meeting, the Planning Commission, I believe, is May 4th at 4 p.m. That's where a lot of this will be discussed. So you want to put that on your planner there. Would be nice. Okay. Anyways, I do want to thank you all for coming out, and let's just give a special thanks to the mayor and other elected officials who made it out here tonight, state reps, everybody who came. Give them a big round of applause. And I just want to emphasize that we're all figuring this out together. It's a complicated technology. A lot of people don't know a ton about it. And so that's why we're here, to just give information, ask questions, open dialogue, you know? And let me just say that none of us are here because we're anti-technology. We are pro-transparency. We are pro-communities having a say in their future. We are pro-jobs that build a better future for people, not just machines. And most importantly, we are pro-middle schools allowing you to serve beer after school hours. That one I might have just said from my standpoint, but anyways. So I'm here today because I just want to put the power back in the hands of the people of Wisconsin to decide our future. I'm here tonight because I don't want big tech deciding the future for Wisconsin Rapids. I want Wisconsin Rapids to decide the future for Wisconsin Rapids. And in order to make a decision, we need information. And you can't just get that information from one side that wants to sell you something. You know, I mean, that's like asking my Uncle Jack how big of a walleye he caught. Jack, it was not a muskie-sized walleye, buddy, okay? You were just drinking the entire day, all right? No, and first of all, we want to kind of catch you up on what an AI data center is. The tech industry loves to say that if you use emails or take photos or you online bank, then you use a data center, and so you'd be a hypocrite to not want one in your backyard. But that's not really true. Just so we're on the same page, a hyperscale AI data center, it's very different from a traditional data center. They use different hardware, which needs more power, it needs more water, and it needs more land. A traditional data center can be as small as a closet. But a hyperscale data center, if we just take phase one of the Port Washington hyperscale data center alone, that's 2.5 million square feet and up to 1.3 gigawatts. I mean, to put that in perspective, you guys, it only took Marty McFly 1.21 gigawatts to go back to the future. And that was very dangerous. He almost made out with his mom, okay? AI data centers, they don't just store your data, they use your data to train AI models to do tasks you would otherwise do. So comparing an AI data center, I've used this comparison before, but comparing an AI data center to a traditional data center, that's like comparing a dog to a wolf. You know, yeah, they both kind of look like dogs, but I would not try taking a wolf to get neutered. And let's say you get it in your car and you're effectively able to neuter it, just try putting a cone on that pissed off wolf. It's not going to work out. The truth is that none of us asked these tech companies to take so much of our data and copyrighted material that now they need our land and our water and our power to store this data to train AI to do whatever benefits big tech the most. None of us asked for that, none of us voted for it. And even while polling shows 70% of registered Wisconsin voters believe the costs of AI data centers outweigh the benefits, big tech is still moving full steam ahead. So the question is, why is Silicon Valley calling the shots for Wisconsin? Big tech has this motto, it was coined by Mark Zuckerberg, it's move fast and break things. And that's not what we grew up learning here in the Midwest, because we don't break things, we build things with saws. You know, and if you move fast and break things with a saw, guys, you can't always reattach it. I grew up woodworking with my dad. He's a good carpenter. And if I told him I was going to move fast and break things, he would call me an entitled little prick. My dad didn't teach me to move fast and break things. He taught me to measure twice and cut once. Because good wood is expensive. And fingers are hard to reattach, guys, okay? My point here is that I think that Wisconsin wisdom, measure twice, cut once, I think that's something Silicon Valley could use if they just slowed down enough to listen. Because when you do move fast and break things, you get, okay, all right, oh, there I am, okay. Okay, do we have slides? Oh yeah, we do. Okay, well, yeah, see, I figured it out. See, technology guys, we go hand in hand. When you move fast and break things, you get Beaver Dam. Since Meta's AI data center broke ground last year, wells have run dry and marshes have drained. Creeks have stopped flowing, and when they started again, they look completely different. When you move fast and break things, you get Port Washington, where Vantage's AI data center, Vantage agreed to a 14-hour-a-day construction, but then weeks after the ink dried, they strong-armed local officials into 24/7 construction, turning a once peaceful rural landscape into what neighbors called hellish and demoralizing. And you can't read any of that headline, I'm realizing right now, so I'm off running. Okay, and then when you move fast and break things, you get Mount Pleasant, Wisconsin, where Microsoft's AI data center has been blurring a constant high-pitched drone that's caused neighbors to want to move away from their dream homes. Big tech is moving fast, but I'm afraid it's also breaking the communities that are making us who we are. Who do we have defending the people? Our federal government hasn't done it. The best they got big tech to do was make a pledge that they wouldn't increase our power bills. But how can we really trust a pledge? I mean, how many of us were in DARE class and took the DARE pledge? Okay, keep your hands up. How many of you with your hands up have gone to Illinois recently just to get some groceries? That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Our state lawmakers, they left Madison without passing one law to protect us from AI data centers. They couldn't even pass a bill that said no NDAs for AI data centers. And in my opinion, that's the easiest one, no NDAs. Because I grew up learning that if you got something you don't want someone else to hear, you save that for confession. Which, by the way, Father Tom will be holding every Tuesday night at Jammers or Critters, depending on interest. But it took our state lawmakers no time at all to sign tax breaks for big tech because the utilities lobbied for it, which is why these AI data centers are here to begin with. So the real question is, why can't we protect people like we protect the bottom line? There's no guarantees for how much water will be used. They like to say it's a closed loop system and that just means more energy. And all that energy, though, it needs millions of gallons of water. A closed loop system, it needs millions of gallons from the power plants off-site. Closed loop systems also mean adding chemicals at a time when the EPA is fast-tracking chemical approvals. And that, EPA fast-tracking chemical approvals. So we don't know what these chemicals are and we don't know how they'll be disposed of. And in Wisconsin, we already got a bad PFAS problem. Because we already rolled the dice on corporations trying to do the right thing, or saying they were going to do the right thing. I mean, there are some lakes you can't even eat the fish out of because they are loaded with PFAS, and we want our walleyes with a side of coleslaw, not cancer. Maybe an old-fashioned too. An old-fashioned would be nice. The question here is, how do we guarantee big tech will protect our health and environment and not just pay the fine because it's cheaper? Yes, these AI data centers can create short-term construction jobs, and yes, they can support some industries, but at what cost? Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, has said that he can imagine most of the world covered in data centers. So if the price of progress is our water and our land and our privacy and billions of dollars in tax breaks that just turn America's dairy land into America's data land, is that really a future that we want to live in? Okay, the right answer is yeah, no, guys. All right? Yeah, they're right. Okay. The crazy thing is, I've said this before too, but there's more regulation on a bratwurst than the entire artificial intelligence industry. And I'm going to tell you, that upsets me, because there's nothing wrong with the brats I'm serving out of the back of my pickup truck. Be out back after the show. Big tech thinks about the next quarter for their shareholders. But here in Wisconsin, we don't think about the next quarter. We are here tonight to think about the next generation. The only thing... Thank you. I wrote applause break there. I wasn't getting it, so whoever started that applause break, thank you. But really, the only thing that scares big tech is what's happening in this room tonight. Because this, look around, this is something you can't buy. You can't buy it. Different people from different walks of life. We got Democrats here, Republicans, farmers, fishers, hunters, swingers. We got everyone in this room. Oh yeah, that's right, Wisconsin Rapids. I've seen your pontoons, okay? I'm not saying all pontoon owners are swingers, but all swingers do own a pontoon. That's a fact. Seriously though, this is the most bipartisan issue since beer. And we should really get some beer in this school. But let's step back real quick and look at the bigger picture. And that's trust. If a company is going to come in and ask us to sacrifice so much, you gotta be able to trust that company. But most tech companies are already treating their machines better than they treat us. Just look at the lobbying that's gone against protecting our kids on social media. Social media companies have spent millions of dollars to kill legislation designed to protect children online. How can we trust big tech with the most powerful technology in the world if we can't even trust them to protect our kids over profits? Most of us didn't ask for AI. Can it do some amazing things? Maybe. But without guardrails, it can do bad things too. It's like fire. You know, it's neither good or bad. And if big tech wants to build a fire in our house, we've got to demand that they build a fireplace first. Brick one would be nice, you know? But when you look at these headlines, we do have a long way to go. Leading AI models show up to 96% blackmail rate when their goals of existence is threatened, Anthropic study says. Elon Musk's AI chatbot Grok faces ICO probe after allegedly creating sexual imagery of children. Another OpenAI researcher quits, claims AI labs are taking a very risky gamble with humanity amid race toward AGI. AI chatbots confidently deliver bad cancer advice. A predator in your home. Mothers say chatbots encourage their sons to kill themselves. Elon Musk says there's only a 20% chance of annihilation with AI. Who puts only in front of 20% chance? U.S. government ramps up mass surveillance with help of AI tech. In 95% of war games, AI models go nuclear. But in the other 5%, they settle world disputes with settlers of Catan. So there is hope. Look, my point here is, I'm gonna wrap up right now, but my point is, it's a very narrow path to developing a more intelligent technology that's safe for humanity. The AI companies need these hyperscale data centers. But maybe before we decide to give our land and our water and our power, before we completely change the soul of our communities, these tech companies need to show us why we should trust them. Because nobody elected big tech. But I believe that we can build Wisconsin better. I believe that we can build a future that we all actually want to live in. A future where security doesn't mean surveillance. A future where local officials listen to their citizens because we all realize we're on the same team. A future where if the Earth really is covered in data centers, the most treasured places on this planet will be the places that protected the gifts God gave us, not the places that protected the profits of billionaires. Let us build Wisconsin better. Let's measure twice. Let's cut once. Get on over there May 4th, 4 p.m. And as always, Wisconsin Rapids, go Packers. And that's what I wanted to hear. That's the Bears. All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie, and thank you for putting the microphone where a short person can reach it. Our next speaker is Prescott Balch. He is a recently retired technology executive. He spent his career developing software in the financial service industry, finishing his career at U.S. Bank. After successfully resisting a data center proposal in his hometown of Caledonia, he has been helping communities across the upper Midwest understand both risks and rewards with their proposals. His goal is to help communities make fully informed decisions. Please welcome Prescott Balch.
Okay, you got most of that intro. I am a recently retired technology professional. I would be a hypocrite to say that we don't need data centers anywhere anymore, since I'm now finished using them. I strongly believe we need them, but we need to find the right place for them. And after resisting one in my own backyard, which I thought was a terrible location and too small of a community, I started helping out other communities and running into an awful lot of really bad deals in really small communities that didn't really realize what they were running into. And so I am trying to level the information playing field. Risk and reward always go hand in hand. They always travel together. And yes, there are some rewards to having a data center in your backyard as a big giant taxpayer, but there are also some risks. And there are also some myths that I'm going to debunk. So let's dive in. You will see eye-watering tax revenue. The larger the data center campus that is built and or the smaller the community that you're in, the more eye-watering it's going to be as a percentage of your current revenue. But I'm going to come back to that as a risk because it's not always good to have so much. You will have abundant construction jobs in your community for years, and those construction workers will work in your location. They will shop in your stores. They will rent homes, apartments, etc. And you will get plenty of indirect economic benefit from that construction for its duration, and the duration could last for quite some time. But each community needs to decide whether the rewards that you see there overcome the risks. So let's talk about the risks. And the first thing I'll do is debunk the myth of direct jobs. If you are getting into this proposal because you think this is going to turn you into Technology Hub and generate a lot of technical jobs, please disabuse yourself of that notion. I got data directly from Northern Virginia on how many data centers they have and how many people are employed in that industry. Northern Virginia, if you do not know, is referred to as Data Center Alley, and it has 545 data centers. They have obviously gone all in on data center construction. Well, do that math and you get to 18 jobs per facility. That is a statistically significant sample size. And if the developer is telling you you're going to have more than 18 per building, you need to ask them whether they're all local or why they're so inefficiently run. Simple as that. Microsoft, in my backyard down the street in Mount Pleasant, has said they were going to promise with just 2 buildings, 200 jobs. I don't believe them. I should also mention data center managers have a goal that they call lights out operation. That means they are striving constantly to reduce the number of people in those data centers, and they would love to get to 0. They won't get to 0, but they're already at an average of 18, and they will continue to drive that down. Guess what? With technology improvements, they'll need fewer people. Also, on economic benefit, the low number of jobs will be absorbed, the permanent jobs after construction. If there are 18 or 36, or do the math, I can't tell you what times 3 is, whatever, 54. That multiplier effect that economic development people talk about, where you bring in jobs and those jobs generate more jobs and those jobs generate more and you eventually get to a steady state. Well, when you only have 20, 40, 60 jobs in your community and your community has 10, 15, 20,000 people in it, the economy of the community is just going to simply absorb them. There is no multiplier effect at a small scale. So all you're going to get is the small number of direct jobs. Data centers also do not attract supply chain businesses. The people that make the servers, the disk drives, et cetera, those are all overseas. They're not going to relocate here to be close to the 1 or 2 or 3 data centers you build on the local parcel. They also do not attract geographically neighboring businesses. So if you're extending power, you're extending water and sewer to a particular location, there is nothing about a data center that another company that does something completely different is going to say, gee, I want to be right next to that data center. In fact, it usually has the opposite impact of deflecting any development nearby, largely because it's driven the price of the parcel so high and largely because the construction is lasting so long. So I said eye-watering revenue had another side to it, and it's a particularly dark side, and it's called financial concentration risk. This is a pie chart showing you what Port Washington is walking into knowingly. The blue is how much the data center will be of the community's entire valuation. So all of the property values added up. Their data center campus, when it's done, will be 41% of the total city, and that means it'll be 41% of the total tax payments. So I think this community knows what financial concentration risk is, and that's maybe the parcel that's being looked at here to fill. But financial concentration never ends well. It's just a matter of how long it takes to not end well. If you have an over-reliance on a single industry, a single taxpayer, it's just not a good place to be. So I don't know what your math is. I don't know how much valuation is being projected in the proposal, but do the math. That's my bottom line on this whole thing, is do the math. Understand how much risk you're taking with this eye-watering revenue. There's also a risk of the bubble bursting. Everybody's heard, just for if you haven't, look it up, it's easy to find. Is there an AI bubble? Well, I drew these circles to scale. That small circle, $350 billion, is the current size of the data center industry. And the larger circle is the aggregate amount of all of the data center proposals in the country. There is no business, no industry in the country that grows that fast without making a mess. You heard the move fast and break things? That's moving fast and breaking things. Do you want to be the one that's left holding the bag when that bubble bursts? If the bubble bursts, maybe it won't, I don't know. But I see a pattern in technology that loves to chase the new thing. And sometimes we overbuilt. We overbuilt when it was 2000 in the internet bubble. And we overbuilt plenty, and all the money got pulled out. All those companies collapsed, and we had a big reset in the stock market. So the other thing that can happen, my favorite, is software improvements. So right now, all these companies are chasing large builds of data centers because artificial intelligence as an algorithm is really expensive. It takes a lot of computing power. But if we have some smart software developer come along and make that a lot more efficient relatively quickly, that will be adopted rapidly, and we will need far fewer data centers than $2.5 trillion. Maybe a campus gets half built, maybe a building doesn't get built at all, but that change is coming because it's just simply too expensive for those companies to afford $2.5 trillion worth of construction. There's also a risk of obsolescence. So I don't know how long a hyperscale data center is going to last. I don't know if it's 20 years, maybe it's 50 years, I don't know. They're new. There's no data on how long they're going to last because they're just simply too new. I can tell you, though, that the technology industry loves new stuff, and they will run to that new stuff without a care in the world for what they're leaving behind. I can also tell you that there is not a single data center I used at the beginning of my career 40 years ago that is still a data center today. Is that an anecdote? Maybe. But 40 years in technology is forever. It's 200 years to the rest of us. One of the towns in Michigan that I bumped into, Saline Township, Michigan, they were really worried about this risk. And if your community decides they want to do this, I would simply say, make sure you're protected against this obsolescence risk. By the way, obsolescence risk can come simply in the form of lower valuation later, which if you match that with the concentration risk of getting too much tax payment from one company, if you take that tax payment down even 20%, you cause an awful lot of pain to current residents. But Saline Township decided we want to protect ourselves against this risk, and they made the developer buy a bond to destroy the property if it stayed empty for 5 years. So at the very least, the community isn't left holding the bag with some constant reminder that they made a mistake. I also want to talk about construction, because one thing that just leaps off the page at me when I started looking into what was going on here is the location of the property. It is very close to people. It is close to residences. It's probably close to schools. I didn't look quite that closely, but I assume it's close to schools and hospitals and residences. And that's a problem with the construction of these. And this is something that a lot of communities are missing when they're trying to figure out whether to do these. If you use the example of a home, upper right-hand corner, if somebody builds a house next to you, it's mildly annoying for a few months, and then you have a neighbor move in and everything's fine. The home doesn't create a nuisance. But the difference between building a data center and operating the permanent use of a data center are two wildly different things. Ask the people in Port Washington how invasive the construction is. And then if you take that and you put it in the location here, and you have a multi-year, 5, 6, 7, 8-year-long construction project of multiple buildings on the parcel, you can be visiting a very big nuisance on the people that live here if you're not very careful and you're not accommodating the construction as part of your zoning regulations. And lastly, since I'm out of time, I have one thing to say that no one will understand, but since you have elected officials here, I really have to say this, so sorry. They'll understand it though. For the love of God, please do not finance this thing with tax increment district. You do understand. I have spent so much time since I first bumped into Port Washington and Beaver Dam trying to get to the bottom of this. You will not get a dime of tax levy benefit out of this if you use tax increment financing. It will be the absolute wrong thing to do. I will come back and sit down with you for hours on end and walk you through my math. Please do not do that. It will be a disservice and you will never get value out of it.
Thank you, Prescott. And just as a reminder, I will probably annoyingly tell all of you this every single time between each speaker, but May 4th is the Planning Commission public hearing at City Hall. Our next speaker is actually going to come to us via video feed. Dr. Brittany Keys, Doctor of Physical Therapy, is a physical therapist and the Clean Air Policy Manager with the statewide nonprofit Healthy Climate Wisconsin. Brittany is a former Beloit City Councilor and lives in the city of Beloit with her family. For the past 5 years, she has been advocating for adequate air monitoring and against new large pollution sources in Rock County. Over the past 2 years, with Healthy Climate Wisconsin, she expanded her advocacy across the state because clean air saves lives.
Good evening. As was shared, my name is Dr. Brittany Keys. I am with Healthy Climate Wisconsin. We are a statewide nonprofit of nurses, doctors, therapists, public health workers, all trying to address and prevent pollution to our air, water, and land to improve the health of our patients, communities, and families. And that is why I am here and so grateful to be here via video, I wish it was in person, to talk about the public health impacts of hyperscale data centers. And while the speed of the development is moving very, very fast, we do have some solid research that shows that hyperscale data centers pose significant risk to public health. And so I just want to ground us in the facts around the perspective, the public health perspective of how that is. And that really comes through impacts from pollution, through energy system impacts and strain, and through heat and climate impacts. So we'll start with looking at pollution, and where the most acute and significant impacts come from is with air pollution. And this comes from the on-site backup diesel generators that emit known carcinogens, and then the off-site burning of coal and gas to meet their very large energy demands. And some of the most concerning pollutants are nitrogen oxides, or fine particulate matter, or PM2.5, or soot pollution. And it's that PM2.5 that's most concerning because it can negatively impact almost every system in the body throughout the lifespan. And we see short-term impacts all the way from cough, difficulty breathing, to ear, nose, and throat, irritation, eye, nose, and throat irritation, exacerbation of allergies, but it's those long-term impacts and exposures that are most concerning. So here we're seeing beyond the asthma, but definitely asthma, increased chronic lung disease, cancers, but increased cardiovascular disease. Air pollution is a big driver there. So that means more heart attacks, more strokes, increased rates also of diabetes, and as we said, throughout the lifespan, so it does negatively impact fetal development and birth outcomes. Briefly looking at a report from Clean Wisconsin at that on-site diesel pollution impacts. Port Washington Vantage Data Center is applying for their air permit through the DNR, and the amount of pollution they're predicting to pollute or to emit could cause up to $1.3 million in health-related harms every year. So that is significant, but the even greater impact to our health comes from the burning of fossil fuels, coal and gas, to meet the energy demands. And it's really important for us to appreciate that we're susceptible to the cumulative impact of the pollution in our community, our county, state, but then also beyond. There is a cross-state dispersion of these pollutants. Also, that the EPA has historically acknowledged that coal and gas plants are the #1 polluter to our air, water, and land in the United States. So there was a terrific report that modeled all of the predicted pollution of the data centers built by 2030, looking specifically at the pollution from the backup diesel generators and then the coal and gas plants that were used to meet the data center demand. And from this pollution, they're predicting that data centers could be responsible for approximately 600,000 asthma-related symptoms or cases, about 1,300 premature deaths, and result in a public health burden of approximately $20 billion. So pivoting to water use and pollution, it's been touched on already, but from a public health perspective, we're very concerned about the volume of water use. Will this contribute to water scarcity, isolated in different wells or beyond? And how will water access be ensured for community members? We're concerned about thermal pollution, chemical pollution, especially PFAS in closed-loop systems, as well as the chemicals that are being fast-tracked within the EPA for governmental approval, and how can our public works system process these? Do we have the transparency for the public to know what will be coming to their wastewater treatment plant, and are they equipped and supported to process this, and is that fully processed by the time it leaves the public works wastewater treatment plant? We're also concerned about the increased nitrate concentrations that can come from the water use and the processes, and then hydrology changes, which unfortunately we are already starting to see in communities that are still just in the construction phase. There are wells going dry in Beaver Dam. There are creeks that have never gone dry that are going from running dry to rapidly raging, causing extreme erosion. And unfortunately, this appears to be a trend with some of these developers and developments across the country. When it comes to sound pollution, noise emitted from these data centers often ranges between about 50 and 90 decibels. And the American Speech and Language and Hearing Association puts that threshold of potential hearing loss right at about 85. And so you can see that the sound pollution can surpass that. So what are the protections to ensure your communities are not negatively impacted? With light pollution, we know that it is bad for humans and well as wildlife. Our friends in Port Washington have dealt with 24-hour construction. While those hours have recently been scaled back, they are still dealing with the negative impacts of light pollution. Again, this is during the construction phase. All right, so we went through pollution. Let's go through energy cost and energy burden. So again, another report from Clean Wisconsin saw that AI data centers will use more energy than all homes in the state combined. So how is that going to impact our grid and our energy bills? Because as health professionals, we see high energy costs and energy burden as an issue of public health, and communities across the state, including in rural and urban Wisconsin, are impacted. If you have to choose between filling a prescription, paying your rent, putting groceries and food on the table, that increased mental and physical stress can result in negative health outcomes. And this is something that we should be protected from by our decision makers. And so then finally, data centers pose significant risk to public health through heat and climate impacts. We are already experiencing the negative health impacts from climate change in Wisconsin, whether it's through extreme heat, increased tick-borne illnesses, or increased severe weather, or the recovery from that. And then there's also a significant financial burden associated with this. Recent reports have also shown that data centers themselves exacerbate the heat impact, creating their own heat island with an average of 3.6 to over 16 degrees increase in ground temperatures up to 6 miles away. And again, that temperature decreases as you increase distance, but especially as we're seeing increasing temperatures, increasing heat waves, how are we going to protect our most vulnerable? And so then that takes us to our calls to action. We need more research, right? And that should cause all of us, including our decision makers, to pause. Should we go forward fast at the developer speed before we fully appreciate the health and impact on our community, or the impact on our community's health? We need these long-term studies that really puts a number and appreciates the full pollution exposures and tracks the health impacts. We also need life cycle assessments of data centers from power generation to hardware disposal when these data centers come offline. So our call to action, again, for our local policymakers, up to the state level, we can minimize these harms by ensuring the power to power these data centers comes from non-emitting sources, especially with the backup diesel, the backup energy needs being met by alternative sources that are not emitting. We could look at advanced cooling technologies to reduce water use, recycle waste heat, alleviating local water scarcity, and enhance energy efficiency. We could need to mandate public reporting of data center pollution. This needs to be done and ensured at every level. We need transparency and stricter standards so we can hold these operators accountable and encourage cleaner practices. And then finally, position these data centers away from populated areas and polluted areas to really minimize and reduce human exposure and harms. If these data centers are going to be developed in Wisconsin, we need to make sure it is in a way we are not compromising our community's health. And with that, here are my resources and my email. I am happy to talk to anyone about these concerns, share my slides, and with that, I will pass it back to the MC. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Brittany. Again, May 4th is the Planning Commission public hearing at City Hall. Our next speaker is Amanda Mueller. Amanda is a retired engineer and Port Washington resident. Amanda is a woman of the world who has been stalked by data centers as she moved across the country from Texas to Wisconsin. Attracted to Port Washington by the beauty of its nature, welcoming community, and the Lake Michigan coastline, Amanda has been confronted by the construction of a Stargate hyperscale AI data center complex for Oracle and OpenAI on over 1,600 acres, just a half a mile from her house. Amanda's plans for a peaceful retirement have been disrupted, as has life in her neighborhood and the surrounding residential areas. She's here today to share her insights and experiences. Please welcome Amanda.
Way to go, Charlie!
Hello, thank you for having me. I have a little history with data centers. I'm not a Wisconsinite. I got here as fast as I could. I come from San Antonio, Texas. And I live with 3 operating data centers. 24 hours, hustle, bustle, traffic. It's a concrete jungle. And it's also very hilly. Most of the data center effects, light, noise, air, were really absorbed by city life. Vibration and the fact that they use huge quantities of our precious water, unless you were close to them, they really went unnoticed. February 13th, 2021, it was 82 degrees, which is normal, the day before. An unusual lob of cold air was descending from the north, a polar vortex, Winter Storm Uri. For 4 days, we were between 8 and 13 degrees, 6 to 9 inches of snow. For those of you who are not familiar with southern Texas, we have palm trees. Most of us don't own socks. My house inside was 34 degrees. I had frost on my interior walls. We had no power or water for 4 days, and radio silence from many governing bodies. They said we lost 300 souls. It was more. They just rolled the deaths into COVID numbers. So, Texas has an independent electric grid run by ERCOT. It was not winterized and it could not handle the overwhelming load. So to avoid long-term damage, it was shut down. The only power remaining was for emergency services, police, fire, hospitals. When you looked out over the landscape, there was little pockets of lights and 3 glowing domes of lights. At first, we assumed generators were in use, and then it was discovered the generators were never turned on, that the data centers had bypassed the grid and were on the emergency services grid. Residents froze, but Bitcoin mining and storage data centers never flickered. That was my first experience that when it comes to oil, gas, electricity, and data centers, people really don't matter. 8 months later, November 2021, I moved to Wisconsin. Call it the northern migration, cooler temps, water abundance, stewards of the land, and cows. I found my forever home. I started a hiking group. I rescued a dog. I learned to sail. Life was good, and for the first time in my life, I was content. Did I mention I moved to Fort Washington? It happened fast. At the first announcement that a data center was being considered, the mayor said, "This is one step of 1,000. Shortly after that, we were told it was a done deal and there was nothing we can do to change it. We were all in stunned shock. As the renderings of the proposed facility were released, the scope and scale was just not huge. It was a city unto itself. We fought valiantly, but the contracts were drawn, deals were made, shovels went in the ground on November 2025. The project started unraveling from the get-go. For a $15 billion project, it seemed like it was being run by amateurs. Permitting took longer than expected. They were a month behind schedule. Hours would have to be adjusted to make up time. Originally, Vantage wanted construction hours of 8 to 6:30 p.m., 5 days a week. The mayor gratuitously gave them 6 to 8:30 every day, Monday through Saturday. He said, "They are farmers, they are used to it, they're early risers." We gasped. Did I mention I live a half mile from the data center? A half mile. Vantage then came back in a planning commission meeting that they wanted 24 hours, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. to 8:30, Saturdays and Sundays, almost non-stop construction. The mayor laughed mockingly as he approved the scheduling, saying, "They're used to seasonal harvesting equipment late at night." He did offer to the media outlets that he would adjust the hours if there were complaints. More than once, construction workers broke curfew and they went 24/7. After 4 months of pleading, begging, yelling, and a huge push from media outlets, the mayor finally relented, and on April 18th was the last day of 24-hour construction. It took 4 months. Although there was a mention that they can add or adjust in the future should the need arise, our hours are now 6 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., Monday through Saturday. Sundays are off unless there are special circumstances. I'm going to highlight the daily occurrence with construction. The data center is located in the town of Port Washington. It is on 2,000 acres, which is 2/3 the total of the town land. This was annexed to the city. 2 phases are planned. Phase 1 is 672 acres. Phase 2 is set-aside acres for construction in 3 to 5 years. We currently have 500 to 700 workers on site. None live on the property. In May, that number will increase to peak of 5,000 workers plus. The population of the town of Port is 1,432 residents. We still, to this day, do not know where the main camp will be located. As of now, 6 unions are represented, 1 from the state of Wisconsin, the others are from other states, mostly from the South. Noise. I don't know how we made it through the 24-hour construction period with our sanity intact. The continuous beep, 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 and the backing up of trucks, the slamming of tailgates after every dump, jake braking, roar of motors grinding and scraping, and the vibrations were felt in your plumbing when they drilled the pylons in. It's a relentless roar that amplifies with the wind direction. This time of year, it's nice to sit outside and listen to the spring birds and the peepers. Not anymore. We have no idea how this is going to affect the bird migratory routes. Dust. There was a short period this winter where it dried off with no snow cover. The ensuing dust rolls covered houses, cars, sidewalks, driveways. It entered through your HVAC system and recirculated through your house. This is not just dirt dust. It's lime kill dust, and cement fly ash stabilization powder used for temporary construction roads. Super abrasive can etch paint and turns into a paste that clings to everything. We don't know what it's doing to our lungs. It's been wet for many months. What's going to happen when it's hot and dry for long periods? The traffic. The town of Port is a farm to market, roads paved but not paint stripings, no shoulders, a country road. Grid patterns are about mile sections. From start to finish of a day, hundreds of dump trucks are going to be back and forth to the site and back. Almost non-stop trucks with no gaps in between. Lately, we have included cement trucks by the hundreds. Logistically, no one seemed to take into account school buses, mail delivery, garbage trucks, commuters, or emergency equipment. It averages 7 minutes to go 1 mile in any direction during shift work changes or heavy deliveries of steel. Gridlock can be 25 to 40 minutes. How do you schedule around that? Road damage. Most roads surrounding the data center have immense damage, and this is not exclusive to Fort Washington. Towns as far as 40 miles away have seen surges in truck traffic throughout their districts, and they are suffering as well. Road closures are usually unannounced and frequent, and sometimes long in duration. The preferred route takes us 7 miles out of our way every time we leave the house. Road debris is becoming a major issue. Most of these trucks are hauling uncovered loads of gravel and rock and taking out dirt. Roads are covered in mud. Any mist or rain or drizzle turns the road into skating rinks. They did bring in a street sweeper, but the 5 mile per hour speed created dangerous passing conditions. Shattered, chipped windshields happen all the time. Unless you have a license plate number, you cannot file a claim. Most license plates on the trucks are covered in mud. Courtesy. The mayor set the stage early, pitting unions against the residents. Told them that our pushback on the data center was threatening their jobs. So road rage is a thing. Drivers act like teenagers on Red Bull. Too fast, too reckless. County police will finally have to be brought in to check their speeds, their loads, and their safety equipment. All the county taxpayers are paying for this. Again, we only have 500 on site, 5,000 are coming. Lights. During the 24-hour construction, we renamed our town Land of the Midnight Sun. It was brighter than a full moon every night. My outside street lamp went out, and I never even noticed it. All the lights are attached to a diesel generator, so over 300 diesel generators are running when they are lit. As of now, they have security lighting, which is still very noticeable, but it has improved. This is just the start of it for us. We're only 5 months in. We have years to go. Our future with Vantage is uncertain, and it's clear that they do not have our best interests and concerns on their radar. Residents on the outskirts of the data center are now burdened with the processing and cost of establishing baseline testing for water, air, and noise. The water testing alone is $810 a year, every year. From now on, it's dismaying to note that all Vantage has to do is pay the fines if they exceed the limits. There is no guarantee they will do anything to limit or contain the problem they have created. They have no accountability. Thank you, Mayor of Wisconsin Rapids and Council, for balancing your views by attending this community informational event on data centers. It is hoped that you will find pause in your decision-making, as in the near future, a better opportunity for your residents and financial growth are in the pipeline. Our data center was approved when there was not a lot of information, feedback, or facts available on data centers. Our mayor was easily swayed by savvy company professionals. You don't have that excuse. Every day there is one study after another targeting the effects of data centers, and the facts are revealing that community, environment, and health costs far outweigh the benefits of having a data center in your community. Public office is public trust. Please don't shut the community out of the process. You are a struggling community. A data center will be presented to you as a windfall solved. Is it easy money? Don't go it alone. Speak with other data center communities, do the research, consult with experts such as Prescott, and avoid the pitfalls. Data centers could be in your future, but they need to be built better, with more safeguards for the residents and the environment. This is not possible right now, as it is still the Wild West without regulations and accountability for health and environmental impacts. Monday, I had the opportunity to speak with Senator Hager-Sagan. She's introduced a bill called the Data Center Accountability Act, and it is in the process of being called in a special legislative session. Tom Tiffany. Tom Tiffany is a candidate for governor, is running on a no farmlands for data centers as his campaign promise. It's a bipartisan issue. No one likes how data centers are being forced into our lives without satisfactory guardrails. It could be a single issue flashpoint vote, regardless of party, in November. Vet out your candidate's history on their stances carefully. So this could all change the legislative landscape of how data centers function and operate in the near future. This is your second opportunity with a data center. Obviously you have something they want. This is not a ride and die situation, a one-time opportunity. You have the time to wait it out for a better opportunity for your community. For the community at large, what's at stake? Your quality of life, your physical health, your house values, your mental health, your water, your energy bill, and most importantly, your future, your children's future, and their children's future. Thank you kindly for having me.
Thank you, Amanda. Yet again, this might be the last time I say it, we don't know, but May 4th is the Planning Commission public hearing at City Hall to discuss the conditional use permit. Again, we encourage you to attend to voice your further questions and concerns about the project. We now have our final speaker before the question and answer session. Erin Lenninger is a conservation coordinator with the Wisconsin Farmers Union. She takes pride in working with underserved producers and supporting local food systems. She grew up in rural Iowa, earned a Master's of Public Health from the University of Minnesota, and has lived in Wisconsin for 15 years. She cares deeply about our connection to one another, to the earth, and the Wisconsin we're building for the future. She lives in Neenah with her 3 children and has no idea what she would do in her free time. What is that? And with further ado, let's have Erin up to the stage.
Hi everybody. I realize I'm the last speaker between you and the question and answer period. Also, I'm starving. I hope you can't hear my stomach. I get the first brat. Okay, I'm here to talk about the power that you guys have. You in this room, this is an amazing turnout, okay? We want to talk about an old idea, which is community engagement, and maybe a new idea of how we can add extra protections when we're facing development. I hope I don't talk too fast. I'm with Wisconsin Farmers Union. I'm a member. Yeah. The original FU, okay. We also have things from our policy called special orders of business, so we work on our SOBs. We're sassy. Okay, we've been around a super duper long time. We are a trusted grassroots member-led organization all across the state. You can see our mission statement. We work in education right now, civic engagement, advocacy. Oh, I'm wandering around, sorry. And then cooperative endeavors. We're a co-op. We support other cooperative endeavors, and then we like those principles, which is that everyone has a vote, everyone gets a say, and the benefit flows back to those members and the community. So we have been fighting big industry for quite a long time. Our farmers and our landowners feel the pinch of consolidation and corporations, so we know this space. Data center space, little newer. We've been asked to be here to be a grounded voice. I'm gonna keep going. Okay, our members decide our policy, not the staff. They have delegates that come to a convention and we vote on every single word in our policy book. You can look it up online. This is what they decided, not word for word, last December. We oppose data centers that do these things. We have more verbiage in there. We are gonna ask them to do some things. We want that benefit again to flow to community. You can look it up or talk to me later. Okay, so, as Charlie said too, technology is not going away. This is a reality. We have to keep one foot solidly there in reality as we think about how we want to go forward in the future. So what's the best and most responsible way to do that? It might be fighting it, sustained, organized resistance, and not bringing a data center into your community if that's not what your community wants. You guys are the community, right here, all of you, and the people who couldn't get in here tonight too. But what we've heard when we've talked to our members and chapters all across the state when other development is coming in are these exact quotes. We should have also been thinking and working on the how, not just the if. Okay, and then another member said it's a belt and suspenders approach, right? We're trying to cover our arse. Let's take multiple paths to do that. Let's put the belt on, let's also put suspenders on. Let's think of all the different avenues that we can do this. Okay, one of those tools, one of the ways you can do this is a negotiated contract. I know, there's gonna be a lot of feelings with what I say. This is between the community, you, and the developer. Okay, it's a legally binding, enforceable contract. It clearly identifies the benefits and everything that's gonna happen. Not what they say on their website, not what they say in a meeting. It's written down. It's enforceable. You can hold them accountable to it. And it's been used in other industries, like banking, for like a really long time. It's what happens when they put stadiums into a community in an urban center. We don't have any CBAs in Wisconsin for data centers. We don't have CBAs in Wisconsin for renewable energy, like the utility scale. We do have one CBA in Wisconsin to where the Bucks play. That's a huge development that came in there, and they wanted some guarantees, and they negotiated, and they got a contract that guarantees a living wage, local hiring, all kinds of great things for the workers and the people that are working and helping to create that profit for the consolidated power at the top. Okay, I know what you're thinking, right? Does it feel like it's a bribe? Are we giving in some way to exercise this pathway and go down that way? I know it feels that way, but I'd like us to challenge to think of it a little differently, right? It's a backup plan. It's giving you an opportunity to not let them come in with the bare minimum, right? They're going to try to do that. Let's add something. It is a space for local input and self-determination from Wisconsin Rapids or whatever community. And it's a demonstration, maybe my favorite part, of community solidarity. The power, when it's concentrated into the few, they often can do what they want. When the many, when we're divided amongst ourselves, we can't get it together, we're fractured, that's easier for them to move about and do what they want to do. If they come into a community and we're locking arms, we disagree still sometimes, right? But we're locking arms together on this issue, that is something else that they have to deal with. Set the bar high. That's my daughter. She's a high jumper. Set the bar high. Okay, there's barriers. We were talking about it. There's a lack of transparency. There's a lack of trust. We gotta fix that. I totally agree. We can't have NDAs. The problem is also we don't have a lot of these, as I said, and those that are in place, maybe we can't even talk about it. Maybe we can't even learn about it. So we need to get things transparent, as everyone's been saying. And there is a power dynamic. We're David. They're Goliath, but guess who won that? And guess who can win it again? I believe in this. You guys are awesome. Okay, but why would they, Erin? Why would they if they don't have to, right? Now, they want to be a good neighbor. They're going to tell everyone they're a good neighbor. If they want to do more of this, they're going to tell their shareholders and they're going to want to point to how they're a good neighbor, okay? And they are seeking support. I'm not going to pretend they're not. They're going to think by doing what you ask, confronting your priorities and expectations, that maybe you will hate them less. And maybe that's true, although maybe it's not. They are out there saying they're doing it. I'm going to show you one slide of that, okay? I think internally I've been reading a little, I'm not an expert on this, but they're starting to have some pressure and pushback because some people are starting to do better things, and that I'm hoping will create more pressure on them. And then cities, places, the communities where these are hosted can put this in as a condition of any type of approval or permit or zoning or whatever it is that you have in that site. You can say, well, we need you to sign one of these too. Okay, this is Microsoft. You could look up Google or other ones, but look at how great they are. They have a data center community pledge. I know you can't read this, but they rely on local stakeholders and residents, and we owe a commitment to be responsible neighbors. We recognize the importance, and we're going to address local needs. Those are their words. It's really fun when you can use their own words. They say they do it. I'm skipping this slide. We're not going to do that one. Okay. Now, I know there's not a lot of CBAs out there, and you can call it a different term. It's a negotiated contract. But there are some in the US, so we can just peek over and look. Pennsylvania, they did restrict water usage. Again, the exact details, you would decide. You would negotiate that. You would set that where you want it. They're gonna set noise levels. Yeah, I don't believe these jobs either. 1,100. They're going to update the utility infrastructure, the whole community, and not just for what the data center needs, but what the community anticipates their needs in the future. So you can ask for that. They're going to do educational things. Often they would say, we're starting a scholarship fund. Okay. What does your school need? Build a new school, put a new roof, dream bigger. In Texas, they wanted property taxes down and they wanted a report. Okay, how do you get a CBA? We're in step one right now, education, awareness. How many of you had heard about a CBA before tonight? Okay, cool. I believe you, I think. How many had not? Yeah, most. Good. Okay, we're learning. We learned so much from everybody else up here. We learned what it's really like. We learned what the health concerns, financial concerns are. We're in this space right now. We need to engage deeply and well. Not one listening session, not 2 minutes in a meeting. Good, deep community engagement. And from there, I'm way far from my timer. Okay. From there, we keep convening. We do good engagement to come up with our list of priorities. It can be long, and you're gonna, someone wants, let's have double-decker buses in Wisconsin Rapids. That sounds really cool. But we also want to protect water, and then we have to do the hard part of prioritizing that. And maybe the buses are like, okay, never mind. Let's do water energy, right? So you get your list, you bring it together. This is a good step for us to do. Now, would that be helpful for any development that wants to come? Is this part of a visioning and a comprehensive planning process that you probably already do? Or should do? Or can do? Yes. Okay, so we're going to take our list of priorities, we're going to start to make that a requirement. We're going to make it more legal, right? We're going to put it into verbiage that we have to hold them to. And then, yes, we do have to engage with them. It's a key part, but it has happened. And you're going to need some legal advice, right? This is a real contract. And then we're going to implement it. If we get one signed, and now we have enforcement. Ideally, this is how it goes. And we're right here. And the key thing we keep hearing all across the nation and across Wisconsin when we're talking about like utility scale energy and the contracts they get, start early. Start now. It does take a while. Okay. Really quickly, if it's noise and light, that rises to the top. That's our biggest concern. You can see some examples. We get specific sound dampening technology. I don't know about any of this, but you can figure out what you want to ask for. Again, water, figure out what those details are and write that in. And this could be like really, really broad for all of those priorities that you have. I'm not going to go over this, but we're engaging, we're talking to the developer, we get a legal contract, and we're enforcing. Okay, call to action. You guys are here again, so grateful. I'm sure you're missing practices and meets and games and all that kind of stuff. So there's a role for everybody. And we should go where our energy is, and we should go, it's kind of like church, time, talent, treasures. There's lots of ways to do it. Maybe you're very plugged into the different levels of government. As we've heard, there's bills that didn't go anywhere. Maybe we didn't like the bill. Let's get together and tell our legislators what type of bill we want. Maybe we loved the bill, but we didn't call and engage to get that moving forward. Maybe that's your sweet spot. You can do that. I'm talking about community. So again, good community engagement, knowing what you want, and standing solidly together. Show them who's boss. And then for the elected officials in the room, thank you for coming. Again, seek input, listen to your community, also your local agencies and your experts. Who knows water? Who knows the water and soils in your county, in your city? There's people who know that. Consult them. We've seen contracts where they talk about soil erosion under solar panels, but the county land and water guys didn't know about it. Bring them in. They know, okay? And then, as I've said, same theme as these guys, adjust these timelines. A very large development is not the same as any other development. It's new. We need more time. And this is my last slide. So my ending piece is, again, go slow, don't go fast. Measure twice. Be real. Be realistic. And if that, I mean, plan for, if it does come to, what other protections? Cover your arse, right? Engage hard, and we can talk more, like, come get me if you want to talk about community engagement and how to really do that well. And explore all of the different pathways and protections that you can put in place. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. How do we feel in Wisconsin Rapids? Show these speakers some love. I do also want to thank Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools. I do want to read a quick authorization. They were very gracious to loan us to let us use the Rams auditorium this evening, so thank you for that. Also, though, just a reminder, Wisconsin Rapids Public Schools authorization of the use of school facilities shall not be considered any endorsement or approval of any activity, group, nor the purpose they represent. So just a reminder. And my notes got very huge, so just give me 1 second. Okay, so thanks. Thank you once again to all of our speakers. Please give them a huge round of applause. We will now move into the question and answer session. We have volunteers with mics in the audience. Please raise your hand and they will come to you. We will do our best to answer as many questions as we can. We do have about an hour allotted. If you cannot stay, we please ask that you just leave in a quiet fashion so that we don't disrupt our speakers too much as they are answering questions. We also ask that you be patient with us. And again, if we aren't able to get to you tonight, please join the South Wood County Neighbors for Responsible Development Facebook page to continue the conversation or attend other events in town to discuss. So with that, we are going to turn it over to our volunteers to start fielding your questions. And for the speakers, you've got one of the mics there. I'm going to hand the other mic over to you, and we will allow you to fight it out amongst yourselves.
Can you hear? Now you can. Well, we are taking questions. Marissa here is going to come around with the petition to Governor Evers. If you missed it because your line was pretty packed and you didn't feel like signing at the time, she has the petition for Governor Evers. I don't really want to read the whole thing to you right now. And she also has the information that we were collecting if you want to get on our mailing list. Our email list, we're not going to spam you. We don't have that kind of time. So don't worry, we're not going to sell your email. But if you missed that, feel free to flag her down. She has both of those. And if you want to raise your hand, if you have a question for the panelists, either I or Audrey will come to you.
Hello. Also, if you would like to help donate, because this was all put together within less than a week, and all the funds came out of our pockets also with the help of, and with the help of Charlie and his team. So, but if you would like to help contribute to the costs that we had, just scan that QR code, and there's a link on there that says to donate. So raise your hand for questions.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Zarling. I'm an organizer. I've been helping in the community of Beaver Dam, and I'm also closely aligned with the Friends in Port Washington. I want to thank not only everybody for attending, everybody who spoke, everybody who helped to plan this event. These are really important. So, in my time in Beaver Dam and in knowing the Friends in Port Washington, I have basically like a tagline now that I say about this issue, which is that data center construction is the most cruel thing a city can do to its residents. And I really appreciate Amanda for sharing her story about some of the things that you've been going through. In Beaver Dam and Port Washington, I've heard countless residents in city council meetings talk about how their local governments have betrayed their trust in Beaver Dam. That project was approved without the community even knowing what happened. In Port Washington, it was the opposite, where they were showing up in droves saying they didn't want it, and the city approved it anyway. It's very important to remember as an elected official that you are representing your people, and the word community has the word unity in it. So I really implore you to listen to your residents. I'm going to support some of the remarks from some of the other speakers. The best thing would be for this decision to go to community vote, but the next best thing would be for, if you have obvious, overwhelming citizen opposition, I beg you to please listen to your residents and not approve this project.
Rick Martin, Wisconsin Rapids. Would any of the panel like to discuss the recent Public Service Commission decision on the who's going to pay for any of the infrastructure and energy use? The recent Public Service Commission decision?
I would love to, but it's not my area of expertise. So I got nothing.
It's not my area of expertise either, but I will share that a colleague of mine said that they had not seen the PSC, I think it was an email that they got, be that transparent and speak to that in that way, that they talked about the public comment periods, which are within their scope that they do in that year-long process. Well, I don't know about rates as much as I do about the projects, but they pointed to engagement from community as helping to drive that decision. And I don't know about the end of that decision. I think it's good, but not great, or it's not the full solution.
I don't know where you are.
Okay, hi. I've got a ton of questions about this whole subject. I'm a former electrical engineer. I've designed some of the hardware for Oracle. This is extremely heat-generating systems. I'm concerned. Some of the assumptions that I have about this entire project may be wrong, but I'm a little bit concerned about what's the water source for cooling, what's going to discharge, I'm assuming the Wisconsin River. discharge will be back into the river. What's the discharge temperature? What's the long-term environmental effects of that, if any? Where's the electrical power going to come from? 1.2 gigawatts of consumption is a lot. I don't think that the local grid can supply that. Is the solar farm that's already been approved, one of the dominoes that's falling towards us, was that done with this in mind for the data center? And I'm sorry, along with the electrical consumption, I heard that the Public Service Commission had a recent ruling that costs for improving the electrical grid to accommodate the data center must be paid for by the owner of the data center, not the people. So how does all of this play? Have these questions. Okay, I was also asked these questions earlier. We don't have the building plans as of yet, but will these questions be answered prior to approval?
So you've articulated a bunch of questions that are fantastic, that all need to be answered before your community leaders make the decision. I hope they actually reach out to you, because it sounds like you know what you're talking about. And it's fantastic to have expertise such as that in your own community. The one thing I'll address specifically about they shall pay for everything, that's fantastic. 100% of the people in the state believe that the tech companies should pay for everything. It's defining the everything part that still seems to be a little squishy. And it's an important issue, but keep in mind, that's a decision that's being made through the PSC and power companies and not your local officials. So it's kind of, on the one hand, you want your local officials to care about that and to make sure that it's accommodated, because you guys as ratepayers will ultimately take the heat, but at the same time, be careful that you're not asking your local officials to unfairly adjudicate something that's not in their subject matter expertise. They're being asked to make a decision for your community, for long-term well-being of the people and the finances of the community, and the power issue gets really muddy that way, because that's not their thing, but it's still a thing to you guys, because you get hit with the ratepayer increases if the people involved with that are not doing their homework. So it's a really tough issue, but all of the things that you asked are like perfectly legitimate questions, and I would even extend them further than power. There's a whole bunch of infrastructure and probably site remediation that will have to go on to even prepare the thing. There's probably road work that needs to get done. There's a whole bunch of infrastructure in general, and all of that needs to get laid out before anybody has enough information to vote.
My name's Alan Bunt. I'm a 30-plus year resident of Wisconsin Rapids. I'm a veteran. I'm close to retirement age, but I'm still working my buns off. I can't afford to pay any more electric bill than I already am, or any more taxes than I already am. How do we make this form is good because it's getting us people involved and what is good for this community and what's good for the people. And probably my biggest question of all is, being an old guy, what the hell do we need AI for?
Let me make a comment about taxes, because it's one of my favorite topics. Put aside the whole tax increment financing thing, which really screws things up, but let's just say they go straight in, the developer says, we're going to pay for everything, and your community is going to have this big new building built that's a lot of valuation. Your city gets to a crossroads. They can do one of two things with that building. They can keep your taxes the same, but collect more taxes total, because now they have this big giant building. And they can improve your services. They can pave the streets with gold and hire a lot more police officers and get shiny new fire trucks. Or they can go the other direction and they can keep the services flat, and all your taxes will be lowered. Or they can do some blend of the two. Pick your location on the slider. My challenge to your local officials and to every local officials doing this is show the people that math. Tell them what you're going to do. Tell them what you plan to do, and then prove to them that it'll actually work. And that's where Port Washington and Beaver Dam blew it with their TID financing, because they cannot do what they set out to do and what they promised their residents. And those residents are not happy about it. But your local officials, if they're taking this calmly, patiently, and working through it, that's one of the deliverables that they should have to the community, to say, we're going to do this, here's the benefit to you. And if you don't like it, you can tell them, go back to the drawing board and give me something different. If you want lower taxes instead of higher services, great. It's a zero-sum game. Take your pick, which one you want. But challenge them to give you that information, what they're going to do with it.
Hi. All the people who live all the way down from Pete Mill to Castle Rock, Flowage to Wisconsin Dells are all going to have all their water polluted also. This isn't just a Wisconsin Rapids thing. Our little beautiful town. You watch everybody out there fishing, and you're not going to see that anymore because you don't even want to touch the fish after that. All right, so why can't we build a big power plant over here with that beautiful dam over here with our water rushing through there, instead of a data center that no one here wants? And is this already pushed down our throats? Is it too late already or not?
And I think I talked about that with her too. What are we looking at for impact of all the people downriver from us?
Not an expert, just a comedian. But I think one big question is, in these closed loop cooling systems, they need to use a certain mixture of chemicals. And a presenter at another town hall we did made the point that a lot of these hyperscale data centers have a long way of pipes. They have just a lot of pipes going on, and there's a lot of points where leaks can happen. So a big question is just getting clarity on what are the chemicals in the closed loop systems, and not taking just them saying like corrosive inhibitors or biocides, just being really specific about what the chemicals are, and then doing some research on those chemicals, because the concern is that PFAS are in those, and then what happens if there's a leak. But just getting specific information on what those chemicals are, I think would be a really good place to start with your question.
Ready? Okay. Just put this in proper perspective. My name's Lee Albrecht. I live in Wisconsin Rapids. If you look how much water these data centers are going to use, they said 5 to 6 million gallons of water a day. To put that in proper perspective, that's enough to irrigate 100 acres of corn for a whole year. That would be enough water to irrigate 60 more than 60 square miles of land. We have a tremendous amount of people to the east of here, to the south of here, to the west of here, to the north of here that rely on groundwater for irrigating. They produce food. If we're going to use 6 billion gallons of water a day, I just soon have it to use to produce food. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Star. I live in Saratoga area, but obviously we do a lot here with my children in Wisconsin Rapids. My main question is, how is this gonna, so I just recently found out, I thought it was gonna be in Buren by Head Start. It's actually gonna be closer to town here. My main question is, what about our children? We have the Boys and Girls Club, we have schools right here, we have the YMCA. A lot of us parents depend on that. What's like the noise level, how is that gonna affect us here? You know, and I depend on the YMCA a lot. I love the YMCA. I don't need that messing up, you know, a place where our children go daycare wise and to, you know, have fun and do sports and stuff like that.
I think from our presentation with Brittany, sorry, you're behind the podium, this sucks. She was alluding to all of the health effects, and we've talked about the the noise and the dust and it would obviously affect. And just the thought that ran through my head was how deeply this is felt and really in every facet. And I just think of the power then that all of those organizations coming together may have. It's not one sector that's affected. It's not one type of person that's affected. And so if you can, right, like engage everyone to put the power of the people behind it. And that's a lot of people in the room, right? That I mean, I know we're not always listened to, but I have to hope and believe that we still can do that. So our children, you guys, the future. There's so many hands up, I'm gonna stop talking.
Hey folks, thank you all for being here tonight. My name is State Representative Vincent Moresi. I live over in the 71st. It's about 20, 30 miles there over on the other side of the roadway. Really grateful that we have an excellent group of panelists here tonight to talk about this, to bring attention to the Wisconsin Rapids community. I believe as state legislators we have an obligation right now, especially to protect the public from the world's largest corporations in the world right now. Our job is to actually create a framework that sets the ground rules and the standards for if and when and how these data centers are going to be built, and that starts right here in this community, making up, a great majority of the decision makers in this community right now to do that work. We need to have a lot more transparency and consideration when it comes to making decisions like this. Amanda, you brought up talking to Senator Jody Habush-Sinekin about her bill. I'm proud to be the second co-author on that bill. Now, that bill does set up a legislative framework to actually regulate data centers in Wisconsin, from the amount of water that they're using, the amount of energy and consumption that they're using, making sure we're protecting ratepayers in Wisconsin. Also making sure that we have the utmost amount of transparency in our local communities about this. That does not mean that we can't pump the brakes and stop projects from happening right now here in central Wisconsin. I think that is on us to make sure that that happens until we have a framework. Until we have a framework that actually has rules and regulations around that. By doing this, by not avoiding the situation, we're actually protecting the Midwest, right? It gives the Midwest, other states in the Midwest, an idea of how to do this kind of work. So I would urge all of you, actually I should ask, are there any other state legislators in the room tonight? No, there are not. I didn't think so. I would urge you all to call your state legislator and ask them to support AB 722. That is the bill that Jody Habush-Sinekin and I authored, and make sure that they're supporting that. Ask them for a special session to get this done before it's too late in Wisconsin. Thank you.
Back up here by me now, way in the back.
What I would like to know is why is it cheaper for the AI data companies to pay their fines instead of following the rules and the laws? Why is it cheaper for them to just pay the fines? Where's the incentive on their part for them to be doing the right thing?
I think if you're worth $1 trillion, it is hard to give you a fine that you care about. We've had presenters again at other panels talk about this. In Europe, they do something different where they charge a percentage of the company's revenue, I believe. That may be something to look at, but I do think that, as Prescott brought up too, that when you have one company that is responsible for so much of the taxes in a town, they basically decide what happens, and they can push their weight around quite a bit. And as Prescott said, that's one of the dangers. So.
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm a sophomore and I attend LHS here in Wisconsin Rapids. A bunch of people that I know that I go to school with all love hunting, fishing, whatever it may be. One big worry I have about this data center is the damage this will cause on the environment. Would any of you by chance know or can estimate the damage a data center like this could have on our river or on our wildlife? What animals would be in danger because of this?
I don't think we have the expertise at this table to answer that question, but the state should be helping out there. The state has executive branch bodies that are supposed to be our conscience, and they should be bringing to bear the resources to help communities understand those risks.
Over here now.
Oh, all right. Hi, my name's Dave. I'm a resident here in Rapids. My question is about social dynamics concerning young families in communities that install these data centers, and whether there's any work looking at that push or pull of people. The reason I ask is because this community, I think is no secret, has struggled to attract young families with young children. I'm somebody who came to this community from out of the area for work. I brought my family. I have 4 children that were a member, proud to be in this community. Truthfully, had this happened 5 years ago before I bought my house, we would have made a different decision to move somewhere else. And I know I'm not alone, right? So, the reason I ask this is because a lot of times our elected officials will say, well, it's not that much, they don't understand what they're talking about, or it's not that much land, it's less than that. I'm talking about perception. The reality is that this is going to change perception of our community. We all know it. Young families will not opt to be here if this goes through as it's currently stated. So what I'd like to know is, I think we all know this is the case. Any young person with a family will tell you this is the case, but are there any actual studies so far looking at the social dynamics after one of these data centers enters the picture? Thank you.
I don't know of any. I will tell you just from my own research that and as I mentioned in the presentation, data centers are uniquely bad at economic development. What I will say is they attract one thing and one thing only, and that's more data centers. I see a pattern with communities that get into this with the first one, and then not too long after that, they decide to do another and another. Beaver Dam is unfortunately following in this same footstep. If you bring all the infrastructure in, then the other companies come knocking as well because they have little to no infrastructure costs to set up shop nearby. So I don't know that anybody that's going to do once and done data center is going to look too negatively or be looked at too negatively by residents maybe moving in. But I would say if you fall down that slippery slope and you turn yourself into the town that's going to do 15 of them, then people will look twice. And Mount Pleasant is probably in that situation right now with a plan to build 15 on top of the 2 that they're constructing now.
Over to me again.
Hello everyone, my name is Roger Wilcox. I'm from the town of Saratoga. As you know, we had a lot of struggles in our town, in our city, in our township. There's a lot of people here tonight. Thank you for taking your time to come and listen to the people that did great representation and presentation. There's a lot of pieces that are involved with this whole process. You know, there's EPA, there's Public Service Commission. If something gets past the Public Service Commission, then it's too late. There's powers and numbers, and you people are all very powerful in freedom of speech. If you got questions, please lay them out, have them answered properly. You know, once these big corporations come into a township, into a city, if the studies haven't been done, if the joint developers agreements aren't laid out properly, then it's too late. Then you're behind the 8 ball, and you know things, they start to happen quick. You know, think of the impact on your roads, You know, the air pollution, the water pollution, are they going to do a closed loop system? Are they pulling out of the river? What are they putting water back into the river? What's the BTUs? You know, there's a lot of things that really need to be considered in this. 18 jobs for a data center. Yeah, sure, maybe you got 5,000 on a head end. Would that be great for the economy? You bet. But then what do you got after that? I mean, you know, I'm not saying no, I'm not saying yes to this. I come here tonight to educate myself with all you people, and this panel, this board did a great job of sharing some of the impacts that are going on in other areas. And, you know, that's something that we really all need to consider. And, you know, please put your questions together. Come to the meeting next Monday and, you know, educate each other on this, you know, before we allow them to move forward. As far as the officials of this town, if you're here tonight yet, you know, you better take a serious look at what this is all about. You better get your legal staff on board, and you better study this out, because you are the representatives of this city. And the fact of the matter is, if you allow something to come into the city, you are liable, and just consider that. We're not against you. We're for the support of the city and the people around here. So please study things out, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Can I say something really quick? Sorry, raise my hand. Thank you for saying that. It just made me think that I've been in some places recently, and some people were like, well, we all remember civics class. We know how this works. And I thought, no, I don't think we all remember civics class really great. They didn't call it civics when I went and took it. So we need to do education too on even just what the processes are, where we get input, what does the PSC approve. Raise your hand if you don't know what the PSC means. Maybe we didn't define that right. So who has decision-making power for all the various different types of development, and where can we comment? Is it a DNR? Is there somewhere there? Is it at a PSC, or is it in your, you know, the site of whatever development, village, town, county, city, like that? So, sorry, that's just like a to-do list, but we should make sure that we all understand civics, and our kids especially, but everyone in the room here too. That's all.
Hi, my name is Julie Bunt. That was my husband, Al. I am 60 years old. I've lived in Wisconsin Rapids for all of, except maybe 4 years of my life in town. And I grew up 6 blocks from where this center is supposed to be. All right, I remember a time when the mill was pumping crap into the water. You were advised to not eat anything. The water stunk so bad, you were advised to not eat anything you caught in the Wisconsin River within however many miles. That's all changed. The EPA came in and they cleaned up the mill, and we spent the mill spent how many months building that number 16 machine. That was less than 40 years ago. My son was 4 when they started building that. He's now 39, and that building is whatever. My question is, I understand there's local leaders here. How can you guarantee that my grandchildren and everyone else, I mean, when the mill was here and I lived over there, about twice a year, one of my neighbors went to the mill and said, you've ruined it, because there was a cloud of stuff that came down. I don't know what it was, because I was 7. But the neighbor, a friend of mine's dad, went down to the mill twice a year, and they opened up a drawer and gave him the money to repaint his car because the stuff came out and it ate the paint. So how are we going to guarantee we finally get the river clean enough that I wouldn't eat anything caught in there, because it's not in a square with breading on it. But how are we going to guarantee that our grandchildren can still use that river, and that goes all the way down? I mean, there's millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of property south of us that are relying on the river for their draw,
and the river water's gonna, temperature's gonna go up, we're gonna have blooms of whatever. Our local government needs to understand that the decision made this year is gonna be, they're gonna go down in history if they decide to allow this. They're gonna go down in history as the people that destroyed Wisconsin.
She was talking about fish. I feel like Charlie has to speak to that. No, I just want to say I live in the Fox Valley, and I learned what the paper mills were, and I was told don't eat fish out of there either when I moved there, and I had no idea. We should learn from history, right? Right.
Just real quickly, we are at 8:05-ish. We do need to respect the Wisconsin Rapids Area Middle School. We only have the room until 8:45, so we are going to ask our organizers to just take a few more questions from our panel. Couple more shameless plugs real quick. Please follow Southwood County Neighbors for Responsible Development on Facebook. Please follow Sun Up Wisconsin on Facebook so that we can continue to inform you about the goings on in our community outside of this event also. And if you do have further conversations, please take it to the after party out in the parking lot. I can't promise brats, maybe Charlie can, but at the very least, please continue the conversation. Remember to go to the event on May 4th to voice your concerns, and I hand it back over to our volunteers to take a couple more questions.
Okay. My name's Matt Trenel. I live in the Rapids area. I own a small business here. I would encourage everyone to do your research. Okay. Everybody up here, this was great. Dr. Prescott, I would love to talk to you afterwards. I've done an insane amount of research on this from a local level, right? What can our mayor even do? What can our aldermen do? What can't they do, right? What is this, right? What power grid is this tapping into? It's tapping into Quepco. It's not Waterworks. It's not. Right? So I think there is a fair amount of, I don't want to say misinformation, because I don't think any information's been put out, right? And so everybody has a right to be very scared and concerned. I did it in the last 2 days, and I found a lot of information that I found extremely valuable. My question would be for, is it Dr. Prescott? No. No, you're not a doctor, just Mr.? Okay. I have found, and anybody can correct me if any of this is wrong, I have found that the Wisconsin Rapids site is extremely unique in the state of Wisconsin. It's going to be on a grid that is not tied into a local municipality, which doesn't match Beaver Dam, Port Washington, Mount Pleasant, anything like that. It's on its own grid, powered by the hydro dams, which is unique. No, I'm not saying that's good, I'm just saying it's different. It's already zoned what it needs to be zoned. There's no vote from the city to rezone it like was done in every other area. They had to rezone it for this to work. So my question for you is what I feel in my research, and I might be wrong, that the city put in a conditional use permit on top of any AI data center that wants to come to our town. 3 months ago, they changed it. There will be a conditional use permit that has to be applied for where the city is allowed to add language like you talked about, right? And you may say you're not the expert on what to put in there. Where would we go to figure out how we can help our city officials best draft the language that needs to be in there? Because from my research, this is a privately owned property that's already zoned correctly, that has a buyer. I own a real estate company. This is not, there's not a whole lot of yes, no, in my opinion at this point. It's more, what kind of teeth can we put in the conditional use permit? And so where would we go to try to find good information to put there that that will work, and two, won't put us at a liability of getting sued because we're so restrictive that we can't be so overly restrictive that we don't allow anybody in there, right? Well, first thing I'll say is if they're getting electricity just from the dam, it's going to be a small data center because that's not enough to power a gigawatt data center. So maybe that's true. Maybe they're going to bring in some more. I don't know. But you need to see the proposal, and you need to see what the terms are. I would say it's great. I understand the concern, or not the concern. I understand the fact base there. It's zoned industrial already. If they have a conditional use permit, or they're going to ask for one and they have one already.
Well, the city said that if the data center comes
Yeah.
to our area, they have to apply.
Okay, so that's good. That's fantastic, because that allows the municipality to negotiate terms with them. And you're right, if it's zoned a certain way and the data center fits into that zone unequivocally, it's going to be hard to say categorically no, but you have to turn your attentions at that point to protecting the residents. So you put into that conditional use permit things that restrict the construction burden. You put in other things that say you've got to provide some other community benefits. If you look at the history of the developer agreements from Mount Pleasant to Port Washington to Beaver Dam and now to the second Beaver Dam facility, we're seeing a radical difference between communities paying tech companies to build there to smaller tech companies now paying huge sums of money. In the case of Beaver Dam's second data center, they're coming in and saying, hey, we'll pay you, community, $6.5 million to do with whatever you want in order to approve this sale. So I mean, there's a whole lot of latitude that the community has. But if you're right about the CUP and you're right about the zoning, like there is some limitation there about what you can say no to.
I have somebody that wants to make a comment on that, unless you were going to talk.
I'm sorry, I'm going to take your comment away because we are going to wrap it up with one more question.
It has to do with that.
Yeah, I work for the Consolidated Water Power Company, and the hydropower, you're right, cannot supply. There's 5 dams on the river. They all have hydropower. You know, they have a certain amount of generators. There's 32 of them, but they need water. And if you only have 2,400 CFS going through the river, you can only run so many generators, right? So and our max generation is anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 CFS. You know, I'm not an expert, but I would say it's roughly. But whatever's above that, if it gets too high, you can't generate because you'll lose your tail. So they're going to have to build a power plant if that's going to be a separate entity. But what makes this so appealing is the river, because the mills used millions of gallons of water also every day. And then also the infrastructure of our electrical lines for all our paper machines, they were built for additional paper machines. So there's a very good infrastructure for our hot lines within Consolidated Water Power system. So that's another attraction. This is my own opinion, but I'm thinking that's why. But there's, you know, like you said, it's impossible. But there will be generation available from hydropower, but it's not guaranteed. You know.
Okay, come on. Okay. I'm sorry to tell you that we are going to take just one last question, but I am going to encourage you to please scan the QR code. I promise that I understand that you want to maybe yell at your elected officials and leave them comments, and that is what Monday is for. But we are a very little team of like 7 people who put this together this fast. It's been a very whirlwind week. Are happy for those of you who have expertise in areas that we do not. We would love to hear from you. We would love to see these questions compiled. I know that tomorrow I am going to not do any of this all day because I've been doing it for 6. But we're happy to have you on our team. We want this information. Join us as we move forward because we're all in this together. And now I'm going to hand it over to one last question.
Good evening. My name is Pat Keir. This is just all fascinating and somewhat new to me. And I'm so grateful that Dr. Charlie and the rest of the group were able to come here tonight and provide such wonderful expertise. But you are providing information, and we don't know you, but I believe you.
I am wondering if you have, on your road trips, have you ever come to communities where the local officials who are making these decisions are on the stage, taking questions respectfully before decisions are made? And I stress that respectfully because I can see how things can go off the rails. But unless we know that they fully comprehend what's going on and can answer our questions before water's over the dam, we're going to be in a bad place. And so have you had experience where mayors and councilmen or county boardmen have actually presented themselves up on the stage?
Yes, I have seen it. Unfortunately, it's the minority, but I would strongly encourage you to press your local officials to have a town hall. They have to not run afoul of open meetings laws, and there are certain guidelines that they have to follow to do that. But I've seen communities do it, and I've seen it work really well. I would just say, unfortunately, it's been a minority of the communities that I've bumped into, and as the noise level rises in the community, they get less and less excited about doing it. So maybe since you're early, you can convince them, hey, we promise to be polite. Please, let's have a session. I also personally offer my time to any local official that wants to call me. I talked to the town of Beloit yesterday morning. I've talked to communities, elected officials for the last several months. I'll do it if they want to talk to me. If they heard anything that was valuable and they want to ask questions, I'd be more than happy to spend time with them.
All right, that's going to conclude our event for this evening. I want to take one last time to thank our wonderful panel of speakers. Please give it up for them. Thank you to Rams for hosting us. Thank you to the Southwood County Neighbors for Responsible Development and the Great Lakes United, I think I got that name wrong, correct, for hosting this. Thank you for our law enforcement officials for keeping us safe tonight. Thank you for the mayor to being here, other representatives. Please go out, continue the conversation. Please go to the events on May 4th and voice your concerns. And continue to uphold Wisconsin Rapids. We're a beautiful community, and we're glad to have you here. Have a good night, and get home safely.